Tractate Kesubos, General Introduction. The Tractate of Kesubos deals with the obligations that a husband and wife have towards each other. Its name comes from the word ketubah, which has two meanings. A, the marriage contract that a groom hands over to his bride when they get married, in which his commitments toward her are recorded. And B, the payment that a husband or his estate must make to his wife if their marriage ends in divorce or death. The Kesubah payment. The amount of the Kesubah payment that must be paid in the event of divorce or the husband's death depends on whether the woman was a virgin when she got married. If she was a virgin, the amount is 200 zuz. If she was not a virgin, for example, a widow, the amount is 100 zuz. See Mishnah in Chapter 1, Mishnah 2. The appropriate sum is written in the Kesubah document. However, even if no Kesubah document was written, the obligation applies. See Chapter 4, Mishnah 7. There is a dispute in Chapter 13, Mishnah 11, as to whether the Kesubah payment is a biblical or rabbinic obligation. Those who hold that the obligation is biblical derive it from the verse that describes the penalty of a seducer. He shall pay silver shekels like the dower of virgins. Exodus chapter 22, verse 16. That is, the seducer must pay the same amount that a husband must pay a wife who was a virgin when he married her. The sages infer from a different verse that the silver shekels mentioned in this verse are 50 silver shekels, which equal 200 zuz. Thus, the amount payable in the case of a virgin bride is 200 zuz. See the Gemara 10a. According to those who maintain that the Kesubah payment is rabbinic, the rabbis enacted this law in order to deter a husband from divorcing his wife. If a husband knows that he will have to pay a large sum of money, he will not divorce her without good reason. See the Gemara 11a. Once the rabbis required that this payment be made to a divorcee, they also required that it be made to a widow. Even according to the opinion that the Kesubah payment is biblical, that is true only with respect to a woman who got married when she was a virgin. Everyone agrees that the Kesubah of a non-virgin is rabbinic. The accepted view is that even the Kesubah of a virgin, and certainly that of a non-virgin, was enacted by the rabbis. The amount mentioned above, 100 or 200 zuz, is just a minimum. A husband may add as much as he wants to it and record the extra sum in the Kesubah document. See Chapter 5, Mishnah 1. The minimum amount is called the main Kesubah, and the extra amount is called the addition to the Kesubah. Both are subject to the same laws and conditions. Besides the requirement to pay the Kesubah, there are other obligations that a husband must take upon himself when he gets married. These include providing his wife with food, clothing, medical care, and marital intimacy. All of a husband's obligations take effect even if they are not recorded in the Kesubah document. Melog property and iron sheep property. It was the accepted practice that when a woman gets married, she would bring a dowry with her, that is, money, goods, or land, that her family or others give her for the sake of her marriage. She might also have property of her own at that time. If she so chooses, she can give any of these items to her husband on the condition that he will return them, or their value, should the marriage end in divorce or his death. Their value at the time of marriage is recorded in the Kesubah document. If they go up in price during the marriage, he need return only the original value and the profit is his. If they go down in price, he must suffer the loss and pay her the difference. Property of this type is called iron sheep property because it was customary for a shepherd to accept sheep in this manner. He would assume responsibility to return the sheep or their value to the owner exactly as they were when they were entrusted to him. Since there is no risk of loss, the original value remains for the owner like iron. On the other hand, a bride may decide to keep some or all of her property for herself. In that case, her husband does not own it, but he does have the right to benefit from it. For example, if it is productive land, he may farm it and eat or sell its produce. However, he must not use it in any manner that would destroy it. Should the marriage end in divorce or his death, his wife takes the property as it is at that time. If it went up in value, she gains. If it went down in value, she loses. property subject to this arrangement is called melog property. The word melog means plucked. The husband plucks the benefits from the property but has no right to the property itself, like a person who plucks feathers from a chicken without taking the chicken. Any possessions that a wife inherits or receives as a gift after she gets married are treated in the same way as melog property. They belong to her, but the husband may take the produce. Erusin and Nisuin. For a man and a woman to become fully married to each other, two separate acts are required. The first is called Erusin, or Kedushin, and the second is called Nisuin. The couple becomes partially married through the act of Erusin, and fully married through the act of Nisuin. The words Erusin and Nisuin describe not only the acts themselves, but also the periods of marriage that they affect. Thus, the period between Erusin and Nisuin is also called Erusin, and the period that follows Nisuin is also called Nisuin. The act of Erusin can be performed in one of three ways. The man gives the woman either money, or an object of value such as a ring, or a marriage document, not to be confused with the Kesubos document, or he has marital relations with her. The sages, however, forbade this last method. Erusin makes the couple legally married in most respects. The bride may not marry anyone else without first receiving a get, divorce document. Intimate relations between her and any other man is considered adultery and incurs the death penalty. However, the couple is forbidden to live together as husband and wife until they perform the second act, Nisuin. We translate Erusin as betrothal because that is the nearest English equivalent. The truth, though, is that Erusin is much stronger than a mere betrothal. The act of Nisuin is accompanied by the ceremony of chuppah, which is when the bride formally enters her groom's home or goes under the bridal canopy. The obligations of a husband and wife towards each other generally do not take effect until Nisuin. In earlier times, the acts of Erusin and Nisuin were performed a long time apart, often a year or more. Following the Erusin, the bride returned to her father's home and remained there until Nisuin. Nowadays, the two acts are performed one after the other in a single ceremony. Stages of development. For many of the laws in this tractate, it is necessary to know the three stages in the life of a maturing girl. She is a katana, minor, from the day of her birth until she reaches the age of 12 and grows 2 pubic hairs, at which point she becomes a na'ara, partial adult. She remains a na'ara for 6 months, after which she becomes a bogeres, full adult.